Hi, Gemini. Welcome to your October 2020 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So, um, some nice energy coming in as the month begins. The sun is in a fellow air sign. So, for you, this is the fifth house. And this is so fun because the sun rules this house. The sun is very at home in the fifth house. This is Leo's house. So you think if you know any Leos in your life, what they represent, the warmth, the romanticism. This is a house of falling in love, the house of pleasure. So anything that is in that, under that header, like sports, parties, games, concerts, this is the house of creativity. So you may be centered on creative pursuits during this time specifically. What else? I mean, all these kinds of things. So falling in love could be something that is definitely coming into play for some, hopefully single, not married Geminis. But we have a very unusual month because we have a blue moon. So we have two full moons, one on the first day, one on the last day, like bookends. And full moons can bring some matter to a close, some matter to a head, sometimes to fruition. So something that somebody's been working on, it comes to fruition. So I'm going to be talking about specific degree breakdowns for how these will be affecting certain Geminis versus others. And by the way, this is for Sun and Rising Gemini. So if you are between 0 and 9 degrees of Gemini, this is going to fall in your first house of the self, this full moon, at 9 degrees of Aries. Did I say... I'm sorry that I said the first house. I meant the 11th house of hopes and wishes. So I just did Taurus's reading, and that's why I mentioned that. So the 11th house is a friendly angle to Gemini. It's a sextile. And the full moon in this particular sector can bring to your awareness matters involving friends, involving groups, your social life, and things of that nature. Geminis are very social people, and they tend to be really involved with groups or their circle of friends. And something may happen, whether it's an event or just something within yourself, where you realize that you have gone as far as you can go with certain friends, and you're going in a different direction, you're growing at a different rate. You may just find out something about a friend you haven't heard from for a while, and that makes you contact that person. So it could be something completely different. This is the house of hopes and wishes, so you might have some dream of yours come to fruition. This is, if you know anything about the tarot, the star card is a card of, hopes and dreams. And it's connected to Aquarius, which is the ruler of the 11th house. So probably a good reason for that. For the rest of the people, so those born between 10 and 29 degrees of Gemini, this is actually going to fall in your 10th house of career, believe it or not. And for those people, this could be like a recognition from career. This could be some kind of either achievement or recognition from others. This is at the top of the chart, so it's your place in the world. It's how other people, your reputation in the world. And so this makes you front and center. It could be a promotion. So some people may be retiring, or changing career path. On the 2nd, Venus goes into Virgo, and now we have Venus, which is this planet that deals with pleasure and love and the aesthetics of things, beauty, going into a very practical sign. And in your particular chart, Virgo is the 4th house of home and family. So it's a practical area. I mean, it is a water house. It's Cancer's house. So I mean, maybe saying it's practical isn't really a good way of looking at it because it's emotional. But Venus in the 4th house can bring that earthy influence of money to the area of real estate. So there may be something going on that front if you are selling a house, buying a house, having the money, having some, attracting. Venus is the attractor, attracting money to be able to buy property or gaining money from a property. This can be putting money into beautifying your home. This can be harmonious relationship with your family of origin, especially your mother. Maybe if you're visiting family, you find love, or somebody. We're going to have a Mercury retrograde. So maybe during this time frame, Mercury is your ruler, so maybe you're influenced even more so. But if you, this might be, but that's on the 13th. I'll talk about that in a minute. But maybe it's like hearing from an old love from your past, from your childhood or what have you. Because the 4th house can be childhood. On the 4th, Pluto turns direct at 22 degrees of Capricorn. And this is in that 8th house, that really deep house. I've talked about this with you in prior months about the influence of Pluto in the 8th house for Gemini. Gemini, who likes to keep it light, and I call it light and fluffy and very kind of entertaining and cerebral, but not too deep and not too intense. You may have been uncharacteristically intense in recent years, maybe for the last 12 years, as long as the last 12 years. And this is because Pluto is in its own house, the 8th house. This is a house of kind of like exorcising demons, I would say. The shadow side, the shadow work. And whether you know it or not, you might not know what the heck I'm talking about. And yet you do acknowledge that you have felt more penetrative and less, maybe even more secretive in a certain way about things, where you would normally just blab on and on about your life and about things, and you just kind of instinctively keeping to yourself in some way. When Pluto is retrograde, it's even more, internalized. So that might have been quite, and I can't remember exactly when it went retrograde, but that might have felt like really, wow, whoa. Now that it's direct, it may affect you in the outer world in terms of experiences that happen with your interaction with others. The 8th house can be money, shared resources. So not the money that you earn, but the money that you share with others. So partners' money, a will, like inheritance issues, and things like that, and as well as loans and debts, things of that nature. Saturn has dipped back into this house in the last, since early July, and Saturn is direct now and went direct in late September, but still in this house until December. So hang in there. If you have felt with Saturn going back into your eighth house after after having Pluto and having recently had the South Node in this area, it may have felt, and Jupiter is there though, that's the saving grace. And Jupiter is direct there too now. So that might be also an opportunity when you have Pluto and Jupiter in the eighth house for some kind of legacy. And possibly with the Saturn, maybe the father, I don't know. But in any case, just hang in there, because I think that in December, when Jupiter and Saturn both go into Aquarius, Saturn has briefly been in there, but I think that you will feel a lot better because these are both air signs. And so, I mean, they're both in Aquarius, and that forms a trine to you. So just just keep at it, and don't be afraid to do that inner work, even with Pluto direct. This is your time for it. Not everybody gets this gift of Pluto transiting their eighth house in their lifetime. This can, this is a house of psychology. This can heal you of so much. On the 13th, Mercury goes retrograde at 11 degrees of Scorpio. So for 0 to 11 degrees, you're looking at Mercury in the sixth house of work. So this could be some kind of situation with, kind of like connections being lost. If you're applying for a job and, you don't hear back, don't assume that they just rejected you. Maybe they didn't even receive your resume or whatever, however you're applying your online application. Because, these kinds of matters in general can get all mucked up. Great time, I was joking that the U.S. election is on November 3rd, and that's when Mercury goes direct. And they're already talking about problems with the mail. And see, the mail is part of the communication, the routes of communication. So Mercury retrograde can create a lot of chaos and confusion. And, just personally speaking, this really depends on the individual and the individual Mercury retrograde. Sometimes you might not even notice that it's Mercury retrograde. I really feel like the one in Cancer kicked my butt out the door, because it seemed like ever since then I've had all these technological issues that lasted way after Mercury turned direct. So something was unleashed at that time. I don't know if it was just a coincidence or what, but it certainly, was not very pleasant. And yet sometimes they've had times where it doesn't even seem to be that big of an issue. So it depends on, I guess, what's happening in that moment and what house it's going to be in. So for you, some of you, this is going to be in the sixth house. And then for the rest of you who are from 12 to 29 degrees of Sun and rising Gemini, this will be in your fifth house of romance. So this can be like if you're dating somebody, you have some kind of misunderstanding, and misunderstandings, of course, can cause the people to split up or to, stop seeing each other temporarily at least. So if you know this in advance, you can be at least aware of what might happen and how you can rectify it, so that you don't, like if it's the other person who says something or you hear something about that person that makes you think, to jumping the gun about what's going on, that you don't automatically, just write them off, because they might not be doing what they're accused of doing. You have to talk it out. or if you're having a falling out with them, wanting to understand, not wanting to be offended, but wanting to understand where they're coming from, being more attuned to proper communication. But definitely like something connected to work could be going on in or with coworkers. The rest of you, that's going to be, oh, that was, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the sixth house, but with the fifth house, it would be the romance. On the 16th, we have a new moon at 23 degrees of Libra. So the vast majority of you are going to experience this in that house of pleasure, the fifth house, house of fun. And maybe it's a new relationship. I mean, when I say relationship, I'm talking about a new love interest. Maybe it's a new hobby that you have recently fallen in love with, a new creative project that you're immersed in, enthusiastic about, starting your own business. In terms of starting your own business, with a Mercury retrograde, that's up for you to decide. You know, some people would say, oh no, because I think Mercury rules commerce. So they'd say, no, that's a no. But there's a famous kind of a new agey guru, if you will, Gabrielle Bernstein. A lot of you probably know who I'm talking about, who's written some cool books. And one of the things that she said was that she started some kind of an online academy or some kind of a course, like an education course, and she did it during a Mercury retrograde, and that kind of blew my mind. And so unless she just doesn't vibe with astrology altogether, or she did it deliberately to defy astrology, I don't care. I think that this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you feel like passionate about something, don't let transits get in your way, because we live in a fear-based paradigm, unfortunately, in some cases. And astrology can be as big a culprit of that as anything else. And, really trusting in your own intuition, your own inner wisdom, to me is so, so important. We have to break out of the matrix. And, astrology is just a tool. It should never be like a cult, where you just mindlessly follow things. You question them, you see if they resonate. So for the rest of you, that are, the latter degrees, 24 to 29 Libra, this is falling in your fourth house of home and family. And this can be, you have Venus in Virgo, you have Venus in that fourth house, and now you have a new moon here. Maybe you're coming to a greater understanding about something. And if you've been through therapy with Pluto in the eighth house, you may even see your childhood in a different light, and it doesn't haunt you anymore. If you previously saw yourself as a survivor, as somebody who dealt with so much, and now you feel, hey, I embrace those wonderful memories that I do have. I don't have to identify with the negative. I can see the positive. And so that's awesome. And then on the 22nd, we have the sun going into Scorpio. And this is going to be, for you, that sixth house. So I talked about the Mercury retrograde for some of you in this house. So the sun goes into the sixth house. It's getting more business-like, getting more organized into your health, into your, how you shape your day. The sun always goes into Scorpio in late October. So this is not a news flash, but how does it, what does it mean for the sun to go into your sixth house this year? There may be specific things. You may have specific health issues that you're trying to deal with, or a work matter that you want to go into a different line of work. And so you're just working to pay the bills or finding a job, because of the shutdown. What has that created for your work situation? So that puts the focus on that area, a very practical area. And then on the 31st, Halloween, we have a full moon, cool enough, just being a full moon on Halloween. I was reading this book about paganism. I'm not a pagan, but I was just interested in the different holidays that they have, and they were saying that Halloween is their number one holiday. And I don't know if all pagans would agree with that, but certainly it's got to be up there. And then on top of that, not only it's a blue moon, so we have the situation of a moon that the second full moon in a month on a Halloween, a blue moon, and on top of that, there's an exact conjunction with Uranus. So, beam me up. It's going to be a doozy. Uranus is all about erratic occurrences, surprises, break from the past, like a sudden break from the past, and the full moon is like can be like a break from past conditioning, kind of a liberation. So I really think it's a very liberating time and high energy. I did read one of the things I read about this Halloween, and they describe the 31st and then the 1st of November, and I suppose, which they call, the Day of the Dead. There's All Saints Day and then there's All Souls Day, or is that the same thing on the 2nd of November? But I'm talking about on the 1st of November. And they say that the veil is the thinnest at that time in terms of the other side, so that's kind of, I'm kind of get like chills, and then the full moon, really adds to the intuitive, and so does Uranus. Uranus is very intuitive. Now, where do you have this? In Taurus, this is going to be in your 12th house. This, I'm talking about the people that are born. People born between 0 and 8, sun or rising of Gemini, will have this in their 12th house. And so this is that break from the past. Past lives, actually, the 12th house. This is bringing out the repressed memories, the karmic influences, the self-undoing, the things that you do, like addictions and behavioral patterns that trip you up, letting go of those, especially with Uranus. It can be this instantaneous break. There's a term, I think it's in Zen, called Satori, which is like instant enlightenment. Now, does that mean that the person is just completely enlightened? No, it's like an aha moment where the person is able to see, where they have erred and break from that. And that could be something along those lines. Just, around Halloween, watch your dreams. I'm talking about, when you go to bed, there could be prophetic information that is coming out through there. And then for the rest of you, 9 to 29 degrees, sun or rising Gemini, this will be in your 11th house. So what I said earlier, breaking free from friendships. Maybe it's like a very sudden thing where you just like let go of, your whole circle of friends. I mean, there might be some dramatic event that precipitates this, but you're able to do it. This might be like a sudden, this is supposed to be the luckiest house. Maybe it's a sudden fruition of something that you've wanted forever, and it just comes into your reality. Oh, would I love that for you? For those of you who have that here, because I know that feeling of wanting something so much and waiting and waiting. So hopefully it'll be something like that. Okay, well, that's what I have for you, Gemini. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.